any comments, plus, minus, things that worked, things that you'd like to work better?
I think I would say one thing that I think I'm really interested in learning more about kind of the Catalyst School and kind of the objectives that are going to continue from there. I think one thing that would be like an improvement or something that can be done in the future would be how can we make it so that and this kind of isn't specific to the school, but how can we make it so that there's almost like a continued pursuit towards tasks that need to be completed within a certain circle. So for example, in the Catalyst School, there's kind of this idea where, you want to create materials and content for proposers, the community advisors, and then the voters themselves. How can we make it so that next week when there's another Catalyst School circle, how can we make it so that those people are also working towards some sort of objectives that will, as a whole, will progress the Catalyst School forward? Like, how do you make it so that objectives can kind of be fulfilled from week to week, and make sure that you're kind of progressing towards the things that need to be done?
Yeah, and I think that that echoes something that was raised last Wednesday at this time, and maybe even a week ago at this time. Essentially, like, we can do a lot of talking and we can lay a lot of sticky notes onto the canvas, and if it's ill organized, we don't necessarily understand what we figured out together, and we may not have a good takeaway as to what should be next and what can be considered closed business. And those kind of administrative considerations are super interesting and useful to keep in mind as we want to continue this as maybe a more and more informal, formal mechanism for making Catalyst achieve its potential.
I think Simon, Simon may have a good answer to this, I think.
Sorry, I was not listening for a moment.
They asked how they can, for example, the room you hosted, the Catalyst School.
Yes.
How can you move it forward to get a constructive, ongoing project out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing which I have started already is having a regular meeting, like every week, every 2 weeks, just have the most involved people be there and, just talk to each other, see what are the problems, how can you help each other, how do you get along, and also, action, of course. People have to take ownership and do the things that they say they do, or maybe others say that has to be done.
That sounds like people holding each other accountable. People creating continuity. Did I get it right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yes.
And
I would say yes.
Also about the Catalyst School project, it's an idea which started 2 months ago already. During this month, there's already a group which took engagement during this whole time. Others also who stepped up and to take ownership. And there's a quite clear group around this already, which are able to keep this process going on as well.
I think what might be helpful is have actions at the end of a meeting, the end of a group. So you discuss what you're going to do next week. One suggestion.
Tools might help us with that, but fundamentally it is up to people. And I think what you just said was, if we keep process in our minds, not to become an administration, but to keep us centered on a meaningful mission and on the practices that will make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and keep a momentum going. So and to place yourself in time. So, we're working today and to talk to people about what's coming up, what's coming next.
So retrospective and preview. That's an interesting idea.
That was one of the things I asked about too. I just want to point out of different series of funding and different release dates like Metadata or now Lonzo, and how to best prepare projects and being antiquated towards the release of these things so that these proposals are putting their best foot forward, because it takes some time to get used to these new things. So it's somewhat of a challenge to know how to appropriately have the use case to back it up also. So best preparing in the future funding rounds would be ideal. I know there's a lot going on. I know it's a lot to kind of ask for, but it is also a best use of time for everyone involved too.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for the Catalyst School to take onto their topic area. In this session, just here in at the tail end of the circles, we are focusing on what we're doing in our overall session and what we're doing in our circles that are really good techniques and useful from your perspective, and what we can do that would make it even better. Any comments on that front?
You talk to me?
I was actually talking to the lady who had spoken just a moment ago, whose name I can't see because of technical issues.
It's Jennifer. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I just think that it's kind of a challenge when, for one, some people are not coding, right? There's different aspects of different levels of what people are dealing with, if you will, so that's kind of the element that I'm trying to put in here though too, is that whether if it's no code or any of these different things, the actual release dates change dynamics quite a bit, I feel, as to what is possible and capable, the capabilities in general, so I think that was just something in my mind of, if I'm preparing for Fund 6 today, what are the things that I need to prepare for? Just logically thinking of this, that's all.
So maybe
Yeah.
structuring the breakout sessions, this is Marta, structuring the breakout sessions to have some coordination with the release dates, something like that, Jennifer? Like having the topics?
Yeah, I
also
think that would be super helpful, right? I'm not really so well versed on these things either, so it would be nice to have maybe a little more of an educational process, because I was chiming in on Clubhouse with Jeremy and I think his name is Joseph, and they were talking then about metadata. So I was asking them questions about, hey, can you kind of talk with me about this and work me through what does this mean? What are the properties of this, and just having that kind of a resource channel of knowing this is where I can go and this is where I can ask,
Maybe having a proposers school alongside the CA school, kind of to balance it so that proposers have a place to learn about the process, ask questions, get some mentoring around that. Might be a useful thing to add.
This we modified already in the beginning. On the very beginning, it was CA school, but now we renamed it already into Catalyst school because we are aware of this. Also, SPOs, CAs, VCAs, proposers, voters, you have ambassadors. There are a lot of different roles with different interests and needs.
Yes, but for now, I think what most people say is sensible is starting with proposers and CAs.
Felix, what were your takeaways from the Go For It circle?
That I
Or
still
maybe
like
even better.
people. That I still like people, and that here are a lot of good people around. And this is verified each week again, so I go on this stuff.
Did some of the people from Go For It come back here to the retrospect?
Yes, Nori, Martha, Jennifer, Tim.
Oh, awesome. Love to hear any comments from them too. More comments from them.
I like that it
Nori?
was a gradual process. We weren't, like Felix even said, we're not there to walk out of the circle having roles and figuring out kind of what we're going to do. It was more, it's an organic process of learning, getting to know each other, and through conversation, seeing where the network and the connections might be and where the interests might push you. So I like that it's a gradual unfolding. And I like that Felix suggested that we check in midweek just to have a follow-up, so we're not waiting a whole week to continue the conversation. So I think that was a good thing. And just overall, it'd be nice to have a central bulletin board or something where we can post up things. You know how you can go to a community center and just kind of look at everything that's going on? I feel the lack of a central place to do that without this fire hose of Discord and just getting lost in that. But it'd be nice to just peruse something visual to see what's going on. But anyway, that was kind of my takeaways.
Sweet.
So just to add to that, I mean, I'm getting a general vibe from the community here that the organization of people is kind of key to the steps moving forward. And, you know, I have worked in quite large teams in order to create systems that, you know, that handle that. And one of the important aspects, I think, is that there's different levels of planning. You know, there's all the way down to, say, a task, which is like something that you put into your calendar, you know, that moves into, you know, a set of tasks that creates a goal, right? I spoke about this in our breakout room. And, you know, those goals being part of a greater initiative, which has a measurable metric. And then under an initiative, you have a vision. So I think at the moment, you know, we're very much talking at the vision level, and we should be realistic about that. You know, we should start saying, well, what aligns us, you know, as a community, and then when it comes breaking down and breaking away from that, it's just a suggestion, but there's this tool called Coda, which I really love. You know, it allows you to very, very quickly organize and, you know, to start to realize visions and, you know, basically to have people breaking away their individual project management processes, but starting very realistically from the fact that we are currently at the vision phase. And from there, we need to break down initiatives, and initiatives have metrics, you know, they have actually measurable metrics. But yeah, that's just my 5 cents.
I was just checking that the notes on the Miro board to see if that was captured over there. It definitely, I resonate with the idea of having tools, but being able to, you know, just keep things concrete and focus on the task, but also with alignment to the mission and the vision. Is that, did I encapsulate it?
Well, yeah, to some extent. I mean, the thing is that there's various levels. I mean, Google have basically figured it out. It's called KPIs. If you read GTD, they've also figured it out. There's different levels. And if you even do agile project management, they've figured it out. There's different levels. It's realized in different things. But yeah, to understand that project management has levels that, you know, starts from alignment of vision that eventually has initiatives with real metrics, but then has goals that satisfy the initiative. And then in each goal, there's a task, you know, and those tasks can be assigned to people to get done. So, yeah.
Maybe we could compare and contrast that to, like, and maybe Felix could speak of this. I don't know if he wants to, but about sort of the chessboard or the playing chess kind of strategy, that kind of game strategy versus this strategy that's being spoken about.
Yes, chess. I love chess. No, it's true. And there's a lot of wisdom in chess. The only problem is, okay, it's a really nice metaphor, but you can play with people, but you don't want to play with people. So a chess piece, which is your piece, and you can do with it whatever you want, has nothing to do with the person you want to engage to take their own role. But at least a very important lesson I got out from chess is at least each piece has a potential and each piece has value. And it's not the same. You can say, for example, your queen, the piece with the highest potential. It depends on 3 factors where this piece is placed or how it's activated, on which piece, on which place, on which time. So, for example, the queen with a huge value, totally bad placed, lost all her value, but not her potential, which fits very well to a human also. When all of when we all would walk in a factory, doing motoric movements day in, day out, well, everybody from us keeps his potential, but we will not be able to use our value. And I think a goal from Swarm is at least really try to figure out already by going in touch with each other, okay, what is the place and the moment you as piece, well, I don't want to use piece, you are not pieces, but which place do you need to transform your potential into value? And I like your idea, for example, Anthony, but I have something in myself where I say, hey, no, because I don't want to use tools to organize people. Much more to try, hey, what is possible to enable people that they organize themselves?
So one thing I do like about Coda is that it's free form to some extent. You know, you can organize yourself, but I mean, I realize that some people don't like managing themselves via tools. But I don't see, like, a Miro board is kind of the equivalent of a whiteboard. You know, it's to dump your ideas down, but it's not how you would then keep track of it. So, you know, I think a system is necessary to some extent.
Totally disagree. I think a system is necessary when we would all follow the same goal, what is not the case. The Swarm has not one goal. The Swarm, for me, is a represent from the total of all the individual goals. And I don't want even to see a structure which says, hey, we all doing this, because then we lose something. Because we have a lot of individual people here who are doing totally individual oriented tasks on totally different ways. And
I think also you gain something by starting to organize. You gain momentum, you know, as opposed to us pulling in different directions. There has to be some sort of central alignment to some extent, even if it's just one place where we say, well, these are the visions that we're working on, you know. So, I mean, you know, we're using Miro, we're using Zoom. These are just tools to organize us.
Exactly.
To the extent that we do share certain missions, I think it would be naive to say that we don't want to create continuity and create results, and not just through an abstract, organic, cross our fingers and hope kind of perspective. I love the organic nature of how we have organized, and I think it's valuable to create the processes and use the tools that help us act and not just talk together.
I see a middle ground between Anthony and Felix, which is, I see it in terms of dimensions. So you have a dimension, which is the Swarm, where we organically move together. And there's dimensions of more formal project management, maybe in individual projects and stuff like that. And the key is to break out, to have lines of access between these different dimensions, different spaces. So you can enter into a space of Swarm, which is maybe more unstructured and more playful and more gameful. And then you can exit Swarm and you can return to your formal dimension, whichever that is, whatever methodology you wish, whatever method you wish to follow. So that's what I think there.
And just to add to your point, that's why you know, I mentioned that there's different levels, and where Swarm is, sorry, is at the vision level. So, you know, until you break down into initiatives, basically we should be discussing what aligns us in terms of our visions. So that's the sort of the organic nature that I think that, you know, you're talking about, Felix, is that we do need to some extent to agree that we're moving in the same direction.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but Swarm is in essence like a beehive, right? So we're all coming together and then we're all going to go out in the world and go work on something else, right? So I see you are using Whiteboard. I know there's Discord, so we can communicate messages, but maybe what is missing is something like mind mapping or something like this. Is that like we're missing a tool? Is that what is going on? Or I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Miro is a pretty good tool for mind mapping. There's a lot of things that Miro can help people do, or that people can use it to achieve. I think the tool conversation was more centered on, you know, converting from this unstructured area into a continuity and follow through for the things we decide to be aligned on and the bigger things that we decide to achieve. Maybe
Yes,
somebody else thinks something different.
Maybe Anthony was talking about basically measuring, right? There's no problem with measuring, in my opinion, right? We can still measure it in his way. It might not be the best way in the world. It might not give us all the insights. It might not work perfectly together with us, but we could have the measurement and see for ourselves.
For me also, Anthony, go for it.
I mean, I don't even know what Anthony is exactly talking about, so I would like to talk to you about that later on, but yeah.
Felix, you can go ahead first. I'll answer his question afterwards.
Okay, because Anthony, I reacted also like this because you are the very first person I met who I never saw before, and you come in and directly you come with an idea like this. So I have to be against it, but on a joyful way. And I know I'm wrong with what I said, and I know you are wrong also with what you said, and we both are right. And I see the beauty in communication already in a case like this is, hey, where is the place where our two ideas come to each other and everybody wins from it? So I would love to discuss with you guys, really.
I have I think a different, I like biological and people like to use the word organic, and I like biology analogies, but I think you have to take them to their limits to really get, like the nice thing about swarms, there's a lot of interesting things about swarms, right? But what do all hives have? They have a queen. Cardano doesn't have a queen. I mean, we're not going to go ask Charles what to do next, right? Like that's not going to happen. So there's actually something to think about when you talk about different project management tools and thinking, where there is some demand for a hierarchy for them to function. And it's true in almost every popular project management structure is that you have to have some kind of a queen. At some level, you have to have some kind of a hierarchical structure, and you have to either organically form those, which seems to happen, or you have to have them forced upon you, right? And that can be uncomfortable, and it can leave people kind of out, right? So I think that's an interesting problem. I like to think of Cardano more as a tree, and we're like vines. And the problem is the tree is growing and the vines are growing, and I don't know where the water or the sap is. And so I want to know where the resources are, and also what direction I'm going. But I also want to know that the branch hasn't been cut off. And I think this kind of goes to what what Jennifer was saying, is that Cardano itself, as this underlying base layer protocol, is evolving. And as it does, it can completely cut off whole avenues of progress for all of these people that are snaking along what they've accomplished so far. It'd be nice to know what direction that idea is going, regardless of what tasks and individual implementations are being built and what projects are pushing you out that way. It'd be nice to know that there is even something out there, that they haven't done something that just completely cuts off that train of thought, or that kind of problem space isn't just effectively solved and there's no point in being there anymore. But also from the more granular, like as the vine, as these kind of things that are traversing Cardano and trying to build and wrap it as we go along. Where are the resources, and how do we connect to them, and how do we interact with other projects and stuff like that? It's just hard to visualize. There's a lot moving all at once, and it's hard to figure out what can we say about all of this movement? What can we do to visualize it so that we know we're all moving in the right direction? We're not all growing sideways into each other or something like that. It's an interesting problem. I like biology analogies. I think if you take them really, you can get really kind of crazy with them, and it'd be kind of fun to think that way.
And I would just add a couple of things, because I think these points that everyone's making have been part of the community this week. But I think that that there is I think most people here who are speaking on project management, and even this board that we're looking at right now, I mean, we're talking, that comes from software development perspective. And I think that that, you know, that's a language in itself. That's just like you see at town hall where people have trouble with it. It's a language in itself. And I think that there is also something that comes from, like right now, I'm looking at the little square in the corner of Vince talk, where Vince was talking, and you know, I'm looking at Vince's face, and I get something from that. And everybody can't really, you only see my image, but I mean, there's something about that. There's something.
Why not?
It's important to have it. There's an important perspective. It's important to have perspective, like Vince is talking about. But there's also this. I mean, it's important to not base all emergence of projects and development and connections and building, and I'll say that 3 times, building that is not based on a preconceived structure. And we can't do anything unless we have that structure, because we're so used to it. So that's all.
I would love to see other people jumping in and adding sticky notes on our portion of the Miro board here in the center of all the circles. And I added a note here at the top about this Coda tool. Did I spell that right? If anybody can add a link to that, that'd be wonderful. Building.
So just to maybe to address, I think it was Felix that asked. No, it was Simon. So you know, there is a philosophy behind project management, almost, which has been broken down multiple times in different spheres. Now, I'm not necessarily like coming in basically trying to prescribe that, but to some extent, what I'm getting at is that we are at the moment in the swarm at the vision level of project management. So that was just what I was hinting at, is that, you know, at the moment we have no initiatives, we have no metrics to which we can work on or start to exercise our ability. So I think that's, you know, I'm not asking for project management. I'm just sort of stating the fact that we are at that level.
When we want to convert talk into action, I tend to agree. And I tend to agree with Felix on if we get too structured, we may lose the heart of where we came from. And I like both of those things myself. I know.
I think it's, for me, it's different levels. Like, I come from a software development world, and I'm like knee deep in OKRs and KPIs and using metrics to kind of see where we're at and really focus on the areas we want to improve and using that whole feedback loop. But those are for very defined, concrete projects that we know the outcome, we know where we're going. We want to make sure that we do it as good as possible and have feedback mechanisms so that we get better as we go. But that's, I think, there's a higher level where I think Swarm is at now that's kind of envisioning things and trying to find those network connections, and structure tends to inhibit at that level is my gut feel. So I think there's like different ways of doing it where we kind of organically, to use that term, kind of feel out what's happening and find our connections. And then when there's a concrete project, then maybe that's a really great time to switch into a more formalized structure where we have objectives and key results and measure how we're doing and have reflections so that we do stuff better. I mean, this reflection process is one of those cycles that we use in software development a lot. So I think there is benefits to have that, but yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Felix's side where I don't want to inadvertently kind of cut off avenues of exploration and growth just because we have structures or walls in place.
I added a note here about before I invited anybody to contribute in Miro, it didn't happen. And the performance indicator is action. And as soon as I did it, the result is yes, we got action. So inviting people to be an active part of forming these mind maps and notes in Miro, I think is obviously a best practice that I didn't necessarily recognize before. I thought it would be intuitive.
Also, another thing, for example, before Vince, you were speaking about also you have a certain hierarchy who is building up during a project and all, and this is already the case also in Swarm, that there's a core team who is doing a lot of stuff, and at least one very important point is that we have the sessions here, for example, but at least to be honest, the most of the things happen during the week. And all what is going on there, it's so difficult to keep track. For example, just today, for example, in the Go For It room, when Tim O'Brien joined in, there was a very nice example for this, at least. When you see, okay, the sessions, they are a little bit the pike of the iceberg, because a lot of engagements and because the most initiatives, they happen during the week, not in the sessions. And for example, it was 1 month ago, 1.5 months, 2 months, something like this. The Vietnamese community reached out to us, the Vietnamese Cardano community, and speaking with them, trying to help to onboard them, try to help them writing their proposal now, and then got in contact also with individuals like, for example, Tim O'Brien, which has an enterprise in Vietnam, writing on no-code software. And so by building up this networks during the week, the same with Vietnamese community or Jimba Labs, WADA, Spokra, or Lovemans Academy, or all these entities, allows you at least to say, okay, cool. Hey, Tim, look there, where you're living, at least in south of Vietnam, in Vietnam. He says, I'm living in the south of Vietnam. So in the same call, texting to the Vietnamese leader of or founder of the community, which leads a 4,000 people community in Vietnam now.
Yes.
And which is living also in south of Vietnam, and to say, wow, cool, hey, you really should go in contact with each other, and then maybe magic stuff is happening or something like this, or the stuff which happened with the Catalyst School or the Alliance or whatever, a lot of exciting stuff. And it's very difficult to keep track of this, to be already transparent, because in the very beginning you have to protect the ideas a little bit. And I sometimes see a little bit the mistakes that mostly people think, okay, it's the Swarm sessions on this Saturday, and we expect the outcome from the session, which is at least not at all what Swarm has proved in the last month. The biggest activity, biggest engagement you have during the week. When you speak with other groups, with other founders or leaders and individuals, and you try to link them a little bit all together and to really take use out of this network also.
Sounds like you're describing a mechanism or a mechanic where the shared understanding we create in Swarm organically is then converted into action separately.
Exactly.
But it's sort of rebroadcasting that sense of shared vision and consensus.
It's really difficult to define this. Struggling since months to define this.
Can I say something? Because I always think about in what town hall was it that the woman professor came and said the most exciting part is the coffee break and everybody coming together, talking, choosing. That is for me what Swarm is actually. It's like we should call it more like the campfire meetings or some sort of get together. Don't expect here the projects to be worked out. Those then go indeed to separate rooms, start negotiating, and get contacts outside that. But for me, that should be the core of the swarm sessions, to just say to people, come here, get to know each other, learn each other's projects, learn each other as a person. Because when you want to collaborate, the first thing is understanding each other. And here you can do it by talking about hobbies or interests or other things. I can see if that's somebody that's on the same wavelength as me, and that somebody, his ideas align and his projects align. Yeah, sure, let's talk, see what we can do. And that works the best because, yeah, it's for me, we should be focusing on that coffee break campfire theme here.
And at the same time, the counterpoint to that for me is like, this is a dynamic that really works for creating shared vision. And like, could we amplify that and apply it to projects and make tangible progress based on that template of people being together and finding what we understand together? ¿Por qué no los dos?
Steve want to mention something?
If you're raising your hand, don't just unmute and start talking, baby.
I'm on it. I really appreciate everybody's perspectives on this swarm process and the value of it. I agree it's very valuable. I think that beyond helping one another understand the larger process, but also helping one another as we kind of develop whoever, the projects that we're all separately working on. That the other really valuable part about the swarm process is, finding that alignment, and whether people are aligned, with this larger goal. I think some people come here to find out if they are. What kind of community does Cardano have here? And, and I think from that, understanding that, in the future, we have to step up. Somebody has to step up, right? Somebody has to step up and be the community that manages the treasury, for instance, be the community that interfaces with the Cardano Foundation and with IOG and with the Emergo, and I'm not, I'm the last person to be an organizer, right? But this process that we undergo is an organizing force, right? And it's subconscious at the same time that it is conscious, and we are organizing. And I think as long as we can do that, intentionally and voluntarily and openly, we have a really unique opportunity, particularly in this kind of new technological world. I mean, this is huge, and there's relatively few people involved in it. And we have the opportunity to not just contribute and not just take part in it, but actually, really build something brand new. And, I'm as always very jazzed about very, very excited about the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
And I think also another thing, for example, Rick, when you said we should really keep the swarm as this, the swarm sessions here Saturday as this, on this bonfire place. At least this was one of the first ideas also of this project. But as we know, the community and things in the community are evolving very fast. And for example, this week, Monday, Or asked us if we could design, moderate, and host the after town hall, which we did. And so there's a second stage now, and with a bigger audience. And then we said, hey, okay, but how could we build a bridge now between both? And what some of the first ideas was also to say, hey, okay, maybe this after town hall is really this bonfire place. And the swarm structure, the swarm sessions on Saturday, 2 days later, maybe they'd retake the same places which we offer in the after town hall with some serious topics, for example, and Saturdays we go really deep dive into it. So to satisfy a little bit the both, to create a bridge between different stages already now. And one idea, for example, I like this idea of, for example, imagine the town hall presents a project, maybe even a Dawncheck project which not have been voted or funded yet. Maybe a project like, I don't know, somebody is doing now. Okay, they present their project in the town hall. They also get a place in the after town hall. The town hall is recorded. The after town hall is also recorded. Gonna upload it to YouTube. 2 days later in the swarm session, I have again a room. So maybe, for example, a project who says, hey, I'm looking for a developer or for 2 developers, but they are struggling in the current situation to onboard and introduce new people to the project. So after Wednesday, the video get uploaded. The most of the people who look the town halls, it's afterwards, after the town halls, not directly in the town halls. In the town halls, 300-400 people. 2 days later, already 2,500 people. So they're gonna check the videos with the description already, and this project you're gonna re-meet on Saturday in the session with a link to the project. So you have a storytelling, you have a free PR show, and you get in contact with the people behind the project already. So these are things, for example, we are already thinking about right now.
That's good thinking. But can I add then something if you go along in that direction? What about if you just say like, okay, you have the town hall, but instead of those swarm sessions, why don't you make them projectathons or something like a hackathon, but then just take one of those beautiful boards that's been built and then just say, this is our new challenge in the projectathon, or do it every 2 weeks or every month, and then you can really work something out and have all people but also ready for that and focused on that one thing.
I just heard a volunteer.
Great idea.
That's a good idea, Rick. That's a good idea.
When will you do that?
Stuff like
me.
Rick, you have to talk to me, man, because there's just a certain way you have to speak to these people or they will make you work.
yes, and I have a little bit of lots to do for the ambassadors the coming weeks as well. So
exactly. And Rick, there, for example, there's another task for the after town hall. Already the big question, how is it possible to present the town halls to a wider community, which is not maybe English speaking community parts?
Yeah, so, I'm learning a lot about how to organize that kind of content in different languages. I'm close of providing proof of concept of some ideas I have, but I'm not gonna say stuff before I have my final conclusion, so to speak.
For example, for all the stuff, Anthony, there, for example, I'm totally agree with you. There we need structure, yes. This is for sure.
Well, I mean, one thing which I think is another interesting point is that you know, a lot of people have been saying that this is a place to meet people and to meet like-minded people, right? And to meet people who are able to assist you, you know, that fulfill some capacity that you don't have. And, you know, interestingly enough, like again on Coda, I would say, well, let's start putting down our LinkedIn profiles. Let's start putting down what we think are, like we're good at, and let's start putting down what we want to accomplish, you know, to some extent, or a mirror board. I mean, I don't mind mirror board as well. Just a place where we can start to build like a swarm profile, basically. That I think would be quite interesting.
I think
Yeah.
we're thinking about this a lot already. Jimbo Labs, they made some very first steps on this already.
Mhm.
It was on the Miro board also. Just on
It
a
is.
very small card, you write already what you want to share, why you're here, with your time zone and everything, and some links, for example, for your Discord account or email address or whatever.
Now, for me, with the bonfire and Anthony's remarks, which are very on point, I must say, why not make little bonfires and just call them Seek Dev, Seek Web Designers, Seek Illustrator, all the projects that need a certain type of concept go in that circle, propose, and then everybody then says, I'm a dev, I'm a web designer. So I go to the circle, seek web designers. I hear all the projects who seek web design and I make contact with them.
I think now we come to a very important point. Do it. Start. If you come up with ideas like this, take a circle next week, present your idea, try to find people who walk with you on this idea, realize it, let it grow, prove it already in the praxis, maybe later make a proposal out of it, and you don't even need to write down a KPI, you just have to documentate what you have done already, and you have proven already the value in praxis. And that's all about exactly conversations like this right now. Don't use the value of it, do it. And use the stages we propose.
Can somebody for me make the day 48 hours? Then I can do that. It's like people also say you need to focus, and I really do. Even in my proposal, there are a lot of things, but I can't do them by myself. So I need partners as well. So I need to focus now on the ambassadors and on my NFTs at this point in time. And of course, I can't wear myself too thin on top, but I'm very happy here to hope that somebody else also picks up and might find that interesting and works that out. So it's like,
well, maybe we could all volunteer, like, you know, we all have, if we're part of Swarm, we all say we're going to do something little to do something like that, sort of like just like what we're talking about in the breakout session. Like maybe there can be a kind of a, you know, like contribute to the group kind of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like we all, what if we said like for this week, we'll spend, you know, 1 hour on, say, one of those ideas, or 30 minutes on one of those ideas. And you don't have to own it forever. You can just do something that you want to do.
I do like the notion that we recognize opportunities that individually we may not be able to do much about, but maybe we can just do the little amount that gathers the like-minded people and looks for who can say, yeah, I have the time to do something about that.
So this is one
approach. I'm sorry.
This is one of the reasons why I really love Coda. I mean, you know, Randall, you spoke earlier to the value of Miro, which I think is an amazing tool. I mean, I personally as a developer wonder how they've done it. You know, I think it's an SVG infinite canvas that kind of has some dynamic scaling behind it. So it's very interesting. But, you know, one of the reasons why I like Coda is because their whole philosophy is that you already know how to use it. And, you know, I was about to say, like, I could, for example, create a Swarm profile, you know, with a React front-end page, you know, that's backed with like Firestore in the background. And, you know, that would probably take me, what, 3 hours or something like that. But, you know, as I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, but then I can do that in Coda too. Like, you know, and it's something that not, like as a developer, it's not something that I need to do anymore. It's something that anyone can contribute to. And, you know, that's why I say that for me is, it kind of democratizes to some extent the capacity for people to get stuff done. And, you know, you can just copy that document and then make your own document and say, well, what do you think about this template? Like for a new way of doing things, for a new way of organizing ourselves. So, you know, Felix, maybe something that you might be interested is just looking at that and saying, well, isn't this more organic? Isn't this an organic way to write apps rather than spending and investing hours of developers' time, just using Coda? I really do think it's well worth looking at, though. Like from my perspective, I see a lot of value in this community if we got that. And the other thing I love about it is that you have spreadsheets and Word, so it is like a wiki. It's like a wiki, but then there's also Excel components to it where you can start creating structure around it. So yeah.
Maybe Anthony, you would like to work with Nori to make a little thing that enables swarm profiles and enables us to do a trial of that idea. And maybe Coda is a tool that lasts for 2-3 years based on that simple prototype.
When I look at the Project Catalyst proposal website, I think it's Idea Scale.
Don't speak about this shit.
No,
Okay, but
I was just having a good time. No Idea Scale, not now. No, please.
Go ahead, Anthony.
But the thing is that, they've got, clearly there was an idea when it first started off, and the community outgrew it, right? So now the problem is that you can't change it because it requires some development hours, and there's kind of like an existing database behind that. Now, one thing I love about Coda is that you could just copy the entire document. I'm not joking. You could copy all the proposal that ever existed, change it a bit, and say, look, my new proposal for how we move forward with how we propose things is this template. Like, go look at the template. And it's a complete copy of all the data included, right? And that for me is like, truly democratizing the process, and it's really easy to use. I mean, if you don't figure out Coda in a day, then maybe you need to take a course in computers. But it's like a Word document. It's very simple.
And do you hold shares in this company called Coda? Because you sound like someone who might. Or a lover because it just makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. Like Miro, for example, I think is a great tool, a great, amazing tool. And I think Coda is also that. It's as good, I think, as a tool.
Thanks for putting it on my radar.
Miro does have a plugin to connect with Google Docs or Google Drive, so we can embed documents and spreadsheets and stuff if that's helpful. I know in previous Swarm sessions, we had little cards. I think it was Swarm, maybe it's Gimbal Labs, and people could put in their little bio, and we'd have a little thing where you can go like a bulletin board and kind of scan who people are, what they're interested in, what they want to contribute. And I don't know, one of the things I try to stay away from is overloading on tool platforms and trying to standardize on one so people have the lowest barrier to entry and not have to juggle stuff. And we already have like Zoom and Miro going on right now. I would try and push the boundaries of Miro before adding a third tool, just to see if it can work. But if it prototypes well and it looks like it's working, that's one thing. If it's not working because Miro has limitations, then look at a third tool is kind of how I would myself look at things like that and adding something. Because as a software developer, I'm always concerned about surface area and minimizing that so that the cognitive overhead is as simple as possible.
Miro is so great for unstructure. I haven't seen how it's good for structure.
Yeah.
Not that those two domains have to overlap. They don't, in my opinion.
I agree, but I think this could go back to another idea someone had, which is that maybe you want to start a real project management when there is a real project. Like maybe that's after Swarm, or like maybe that can happen within the Swarm, but not at the meetings.
I think.
Hey, Ken.
Oh, sorry.
Love to hear anything you have to say after Marta.
I was just thinking that I think maybe what Anthony's proposing is that he's in his mind and from his experience, he sees that Coda would be more facile at at creating a dynamic environment. So he sees it really clearly. And but everybody here is really used to Miro, and it's their, you know, and so maybe, so I understand about what was just said about projects, if you have a project, but what about, maybe Anthony could, and you sort of suggested this, Randall, create something or make a small introduction during the week.
Show us
or
a prototype,
something.
yeah.
Show us something that uses it, and invite people in, and then let them decide. So
I would love it if like Miro had an iframe capability. Maybe it does, and we can just literally start interacting with Coda within a little Miro frame.
All right,
Ken?
just in regard to this conversation, I think, Anthony, I really would love to see you hosting a circle next Saturday about this, really.
On Coda specifically?
Whatever you want. This is the rule of the circles are, you have your room, and you do with your room whatever you want. But I think
whatever you think is most important.
Or whatever you think is most important.
I have a lot of entry points
I'm good.
into that one. But I mean, certainly I think that, I mean, I can give you a demo of Coda, you know, some of the ideas which we've talked about here, you know, I could literally do it in about 30 minutes. You know, I was thinking about doing it while you guys were talking. So, but, you know, I think that the power of Coda, which I kind of really want to point out, is that I don't have to do it as a developer. It's really not difficult for anyone to do it, which is is my key takeaway from that tool, is that, you know, is that anyone could have created this swarm profile, because there's very few data fields involved. There's, you know, there's like a LinkedIn profile. So there's basically your social profiles. There's maybe an image, and then there's things that you consider your vision that is maybe in a shared vision table, you know. Now, this sounds like maybe programming terms, but these are just spreadsheets, you know, but a spreadsheet in one kind of document that you can kind of all link together. And the querying language is it's almost English. I mean, it is a programming language, but anyone, you know, can kind of touch base and actually do this themselves. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to create a group. I think that if I were to host a breakout room, it would probably be to discuss the different levels of project management. It's something which, as I said, I can point out in 3 separate documents. There's the KPIs that Google talked about. There's
all right, that sounds wonderful. I'm going to interrupt you just to keep things on track. We're talking retrospective today. And I'm totally interested. I don't want to stop that conversation, and we can certainly loop back to it if we feel like we've covered retrospective. Ken, what do you think?
So I've been kind of doodling here because I ran out of paper upstairs and I'm drawing on my desk, so I may need to look down while I'm doing this, so I apologize for that. But similar to, and just to stay on that thread for just a second, it was only a month or 2 ago that we were using Mural, not Miro, because people were introducing those tools. Like, what's the common tool? What's the common thread? Are we Apple's people or are we Microsoft people? Are we CLI or GUI? But if I can go back to 30,000 foot on this, and this is why I love this whole community and what we're doing with it, because I think it pulls everything together. Is that okay? So give me a second to kind of, if you can give me 2 minutes, and if I get too long-winded or too crazy, just say, just stop.
Thank you.
But Cardano runs IOHK IOG, who has employees. The Cardano Foundation funds one of the projects, which is Project Catalyst. Project Catalyst has its own mission. It's using a tool to accomplish that mission, which is the experiment of allowing all of us to create and fund ideas to let the blockchain grow and let it become a tool in the world and making things happen. So the tool that we use, one tool we use is IdeaScale, and it's kind of stuck on that right now. But coming back to that, the other side of Project Catalyst is the community that exists. And we were in the side, we were chilling out, but pretty much not in a chill out, because we were talking about a lot of different things. But between Discord, Instagram, talk group, Reddits, Facebooks, all the different communities that exist for English speaking people, let alone the other parts of the globe. All of us have different tools to use and ways to do it, but our community currently sits on and around those main platforms, which are all things brand new to me. I had to learn. So with Project Catalyst, we have to do idea scale right now. That's where proposals sit, and the community injects their help through idea scale, through proposals to make projects. The voters are the ADA owners, and they're the ones that you have to have ADA to be a voter at a certain value. All of that comes together to the winning proposals, who then report back to Project Catalyst. So whatever tools where Anthony is at is saying that is, hey, CODA, whatever that is, if we don't know what that is, that'd be great to introduce that. If you think that that's an improvement to see it, that would be awesome. But I think at one collective point of all the commonalities, if everyone likes using Miro that is in this system right now, when we only have a few hundred people or 27 people on this gathering, 6 months from now, after smart contracts exist, because that's going to happen, it's already out in testnet. Once it goes mainnet, we're going to accumulate thousands of people. So we have to build to that scope. What do they use? What tools are they going to bring to the table a month or 3 months from now? So that's where my brain's at right now, Randall. If you saw me kind of drifting in the zone, and that's what I was doodling on and trying to sort out as far as retro for this swarm section is, that's what I'm going to lose sleep over tonight on this one.
Anthony, I'm trying to connect with you on Discord. Maybe you can do something to connect back to me. I definitely feel bad about cutting you off on that. Thanks, Ken, for that perspective. I think it definitely bears on this conversation about tools. What else? What do we like about this session today, and what would we do to make it better? I'd like to wrap up in the next 5 minutes myself.
Chat is raising his hand, and I'm gonna stay for those who want to stay also.
Chad.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to see or given what I thought has been a hole that, looking at what Ken was saying from the 30,000 foot, in America, when you're going through middle school, when you go from, science is fun into science has, formulas and actual fundamental stuff to it, there's a first class that you take that's called integrated physics and chemistry. And pretty much the purpose of it is to be a Bill Nye type science class where it's fun and educational to get your brain going. I think this space is lacking from that 30,000 foot kind of an introductory course where you are synergizing the real world concepts that are 20 years from now to where you can be a part exactly today. It wouldn't have to even be something that's a continual thing. I would think that, and I don't even think it has to be like a class necessarily, like with like tests and stuff, but kind of if you're coming in here and you really don't know anything about blockchain or staking or any of the various like Miro board and CODA, all these different things, what's a way that we could put a real fun and informative module or course or something together where everybody would either view it and then say, okay, I'm going to be a fan of it, but just stay on the sideline, or this isn't me and walk away, or they put the light bulb on their head and then that's where, oh, now I know exactly what tangent to go on in this space.
Just shortly to add something to this chat, this is exactly the reason why there is this initiative of this Catalyst School rising up right now. Because this is a huge topic, what you are pointing there. And this you can't satisfy with 1-2 breakout rooms.
Well, certainly, and I think a YouTube video introduction, sort of a 20-minute that maybe we evolve or change, would be interesting for I mean, certainly I would have liked to have watched the YouTube video to know what I was getting myself into. So I think that would be useful.
If you knew what you were getting yourself into, maybe you wouldn't have joined. You gotta get some curiosity.
I was thinking the same. If he knew that he was going to need to host the next one, most probably he wouldn't have come in.
Hey, get me talking on something I'm interested in. You won't stop me.
Clearly.
I think that
That's not a problem.
I think it touches exactly to the problem that we're foreshadowing, that in the months to come, there's going to be a complete scale up, an exponential scale up of the number of minds and voices and opinions and everything, and being able to index that from the get-go, you know, have people funnel themselves into their silos through the entrance door somehow, some way.
If
One
we
thing
can
was-
scale. Go ahead.
Just to a much earlier point, when Ken was talking about the different tools, yeah, I think it was Ken, is that you were using a different tool before Miro, and you know, potentially people are now getting used to this tool, and introducing another one might be a cognitive overhead. I think Nori also talked about, you know, limiting the surface area. There's an interesting thing called change management in software project management, and what you do is you realize that some people changing the process is sometimes gets exponentially difficult. And what happens is when you keep on changing, people start to resist change. So certainly change management is a process, and it's a very interesting one, and they've done a lot of research. So I think that's something maybe we should look into as well.
We'll be changing the process of the US dollar real soon, so we'll have a lot of practice for that. Randall, I'm going to bow out to help you out with, I appreciate everybody. I know we're 2 hours into this right now, so I have begging kids waiting for me, so I'm going to head downstairs. But thank you all very much.
That's it for me too, folks.
And can I really get used to your green tissue behind?
Yeah, and that's a chroma setup.
Yeah, in this podcast and all its videos.
It's good to see everybody. It's good to see you, Ken, Anthony.
And Ken.
Very well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
good
actually an actual green screen, so I'll be using that. My next video is going to be with my 11-year-old, so it's going to be fantastic.
Ken, we should